Welcome to Xcelerate with Shawn Redford. The Xcelerate Xcast is designed to provide Experior agents with simple, repeatable, and profitable strategies for you to grow your business. We will share ideas on how to identify ideal target markets and new opportunities, improve your conversations with proven scripts and storytelling, and finally, we'll also meet with industry experts and our partner companies to ensure we're up to date with the newest technology and insights, all so you're able to accelerate your growth. We hope you enjoy Xcelerate with me, your host, Shawn Redford. Hello, Experior Champions, and thank you for joining us for today's episode of Xcelerate with Shawn Redford. Today we'll be discussing financial needs assessments, the art and science behind getting the client to open up, and finding a way to really differentiate yourself from the competition by asking better questions. And our special guest today is Alan Suckerman. He is the sales director with Annexus and Quantum. Alan is a sales executive, industry speaker, and life insurance expert with more than 30 years of experience in the financial services industry. He's a leading authority on indexed universal life insurance solutions and business development strategies. He is National Life Sales Director at Annexus, the nation's leading independent retirement planning, product design, and distribution company. He's held previous leadership roles at Colonial Life, Prudential, and John Hancock. Alan is passionate about training and coaching, specifically independent distribution companies, and leading them to success via education and better product designs. With his natural ability to present and educate in the boardroom as well as in the field, Alan offers the compelling ability to capture the marketplace and provide insight to all. If you haven't had an opportunity to hear Alan speak, well, today's your lucky day. He's an original member of the Society of Senior Advisors and the recipient of numerous industry awards. Alan holds an MBA in business marketing, and he and his wife live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm now so excited to share my conversation with Alan Suckerman. Well, thanks for joining me today, Al. How's it going?
Fantastic, Shawn. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well, we really appreciate you. I mean, you've already become an icon at Experior. You've attended so many of our events. You've attended the Product on Thursday trainings, and your reputation has been, I mean, incredibly well received, or rather, you have been incredibly well received by all of our agents. So I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for all the incredible support you've already been providing to us in a pretty short time.
Well, I'm very grateful for that, and I appreciate the leadership at Experior. It's always a pleasure when you get engaged leadership. And, you know, what I watch and observe you doing, and Frank and Jamie and Darren, it's amazing. And it makes it very easy then to want to be at the events, want to participate, want to do these things. And so I'm grateful through Quantum and Experior to be able to be a part of it. So thank you very kindly.
Well, that's kind of you to say. And I mean, I have to admit that is one of the most compelling reasons why I find people are joining Experior. It is the culture of camaraderie, of community, of support that you get from, as you say, from the leadership, whether it's the directors at head office, staff at head office, or the leaders in the field, the guys who've been and the gals who've been doing this for years or even just a minute. You know, everybody's here to support each other. And so, you know, we're all very fortunate. So, and we're glad to have that arrangement with you guys and Quantum and Annexus. Wow, we're so fortunate to have that.
Thank you.
So you've gone out of your way. You've created a video series for us that's going to be available in the back office. There's going to be a Quantum section as well. And I know we've already shared your videos with a few people. But today, what I'd like to talk about is one of those videos in particular, and I'm going to create a link at the end of this video, or rather, after you watch this video, you'll be able to click on the link and see this video specifically. And it's the one where you addressed financial needs assessments, FNAs, which we'll call it for the rest of the day so that we don't have to trip over our words. So the idea of financial needs assessments, and in Canada, from a regulatory perspective, it's been, I mean, quite stringent. And, the putting the best interests of the client first reforms have become a big topic in Canada. And I know it's coming in the States. And before we got on the call here, I asked you the question I'd like you to share with our audience. What are the rules? Are there financial needs assessments, F&A requirements in every state in the United States?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. The United States has been a little bit more fluid in what it will allow or not allow, in that they don't say you have to have an F&A that looks like this. But what they do say is you have to be able to document and show purpose for the recommendations you're making. And naturally speaking, that means you got to do some element of a fact finder. And whether you call the fact finder an F&A, whether you call it a inventory, whatever you call it, you have to have that as part of a file to be able to justify that you acted as an advisor in the best interest of the client. And they leave it a little bit open to that, but how that looks, obviously, the more thorough you can be in your fact finding, the better your recommendation overall will be. And somewhere down the road, if it comes to an element of a lawsuit or a challenge or family member questioning, you have the documentation and the purpose going forward. It's interesting that you mentioned that, Shawn, because a number of years ago, and this probably goes back 1998, 99, I was at the time with John Hancock, and I had a client that was a business owner and called me one day on his IRA account. And he said, I want to take the money out of my IRA account. And what he didn't tell me is that he was in the midst of a divorce. And long story short, without getting into the entire discussion, he took the money out, never told me that he had moved out of the house. And so the check gets sent to the ex-wife's, or in the process, the divorced wife. And she questioned why he was taking it out. And it was in the middle of the divorce. Well, that's fraud. That's a felony. And the company, John Hancock, came back to me with their special investigations unit. Guys with badges and guns come into my office, shut down the office. You're out of business until we do our investigation of why you assisted him in committing fraud. Well, to your point about F&As, I am one who took very good notes of discussions, telephone calls, etc. And I actually had a full page of notes around what he had asked for, what I had told him are the problems or the hiccups in doing it, and the fact that he never said anything to me about being in the midst of a divorce or moving out. They obviously released me. There was no problem. I was in the clear. But what saved me were the notes in the file. Mm-hmm. The same thing is in an F&A. If you have the notes, whether it be an F&A format or just paragraph written notes, you're going to be okay down the road. And that's the value of doing a good F&A or note-taking.
Well, and, we've got there's a lawyer here in Canada who's made a name for herself. Ellen Bessner is her name. She's written a couple of books, great books, Advisor at Risk and Communication Risk. And her job is to defend advisors or agents in court, when they are sued, because I don't know about in the States, but every once in a while we get sued up here in Canada.
No, we do here. In fact, it's becoming far more popular to sue advisors. And it's typically 15 or 20 years down the road when that case is long past. Yeah,
absolutely. And so she says something, document, because if it's not documented, it didn't happen. It wasn't said, right? You need to protect yourself. But I mean, we also want to adhere to a certain level of professionalism in this industry. I mean, think about it this way. We have an access to, and we gather more information. We know more about our clients than any other person in their lives. We know more about them than their doctors. Okay.
Yes.
Because we do collect all that health, medical, and other medical information, but we also collect their financial information. We talk about their dreams and their goals. We talk about their tax situation. So we know more than their doctors. We know more than their lawyers. We know more than their accounts. Often, as is the case with you, you're just your recent story, we know more than their spouses or exes, right?
Exactly.
So the
Exactly.
level of professionalism, and to a certain degree, and I know in the United States, the Department of Labor is really pushing for this, we have almost a fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interest of the clients at all times. So how do you preserve that professionalism? Well, to your point, you take notes. You
Yes.
do a proper analysis to determine how much actual need is there, what are the right products to meet that need. And I would even go a step further. You want to really stand out as a professional. In Canada, we have something called a reason why letter. So at the end of the transaction, we provide the client with a letter saying, this is what you bought, this is why you bought it, this is anything we didn't cover that we might want to address in the future. I mean, think of how professional that is and how that keeps
Absolutely.
both you and your client accountable.
And even in the US, while it may not be a absolute written requirement to do that, it would make a lot of sense. But that to just do that almost prophylactically on every case that you do, and we used to refer to that back in the day as just your financial plan. You got to build a plan for them.
Yeah.
And I know I talk a lot about when I speak about creating solutions, round pegs and round holes, not square pegs and round holes, meaning don't leave gaps around the edges where things can fall through. And this speaks directly to what you just said, Shawn, because if you create a plan that has multiple steps to the plan, while today you may only be implementing one part, item number one, there's 4 more, 5 more, 10 more items in the overall plan. And that's the total solution. So that today we're going to implement in steps. And this is step 1 or step 3 or whatever step you're on. And that all lends and comes from the FNA and understanding that your FNA is much bigger than simply data collection.
Absolutely.
Opening your mind to the idea that the data is fine, but this is so much bigger than data.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me, I used to have a colleague that had this, a picture on her desk of a stop sign. And in the stop sign, it didn't say the word stop. It said wait, WAIT. Have you heard this acronym before?
I haven't, no.
So the acronym, what it stood for was, why am I talking? So there's a stop sign with wait on it. Why am I talking? And the reason she put it there, and the reason why I love this acronym myself, is the whole point when you're in this client engagement with the individual is not to be interesting yourself, it's to be interested in them.
Yes.
Right? It's to ask them questions. So the question, you know, why am I talking? The answer to that is the only reason why you should be talking as the agent is to ask questions, especially in particular in the fact-finding process. The more questions you ask, the more engaged the client's going to be, the more they're going to tell you about their dreams, their hopes, their goals. They're going to tell you what they want to buy and when they want to buy it if you let them.
Absolutely. And that now you've hit the essence of the tutorial on FNAs that we have made, that I made for Xcelerate. It really is just all about that. And it's setting the table from the first 5 minutes you're with them of get the big elephant in the room out of the room from minute 1. And that's, how do you get paid? That you're not here for your health. You're here for a reason, and tell them the reason. Don't hide the reason. I mean, think about the process of getting to an FNA. How many hours does the average advisor spend setting the appointment, networking to get the appointment, booking the appointment, preparing for the appointment, driving to the client's house or getting on Zoom, however they're doing it, and then conducting that appointment and then back home? Easily, an advisor has 2 to 3 hours of time.
Easily.
You have to value your time as much as the client's time. You're not a charity. Nobody is working for free. Let your clients know. And one of the great things about Xcelerate particularly is an advisor gets paid multiple ways. I mean, one way, sure, if you bring them the right solution that the client agrees with, you get paid a commission. No question. Absolutely, that's true. That's not a bad word.
No.
Make it a positive, because the reality is that client cannot come to you to say, well, if you'll take $200 less income, I'll buy from you versus somebody else. They can't negotiate that.
No.
And you as an advisor can't negotiate it away. So no matter who they buy from, you, your competitor, the guy, another guy down the road, they're going to pay the same cost in terms of commissions.
Yes.
It's a set number. So tell them that.
Yeah.
And then the second way in the Experior system that you get paid is maybe that person, because they have another career or they have a career already, maybe for whatever reason, the data doesn't allow them, or personally that just doesn't allow them to buy from you. But isn't it all about building a team? I mean, that really is the focus of being a builder. They could join your team as a partner.
Yeah.
And if they join your team as a partner, you eventually are going to get paid.
Yeah.
So it's not simply buying today. They could choose to become a partner. Why? Because you as the advisor took them down a process that made sense. It was respectable. It wasn't over the top pushy. It was consultative in nature. And you treated them with respect, so they would like to do that for other people. And then, of course, maybe they have that career. They don't want to leave what they're doing. And they also can't buy, but they could refer you to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting referrals from that person, any one of those three ways or all of those three ways get you paid.
Yes.
And you need to tell them that up front. That's part of disclosing. It's part of being upfront with what is the expectation of today's meeting. And whether you buy or don't buy, that's one question. But there are other ways we can be of value to each other. So telling them that in the very first 5 minutes, so that they know that the definition of doing business with you could be any combination of those three items.
Yes. Yeah. And it goes to the point, you need to be prepared for your meetings. Like,
Yes.
You need to be prepared in so many ways, with an agenda, with an idea of what you want to talk about. That being said, I'm going to come back to that in a minute, though. You want to have scripts. You want to be prepared with some of the things that you want to say, but you also want to think about the potential objections, like you just addressed there, right? The commission objection, how are you getting paid? Deal with those objections before they come up in advance, so that it's more of a conversation as opposed to a rebuttal, right? Now,
Yes.
What I wanted to come back to on that note was back to an agenda. In your F&A discussion, you also talked about, I guess the term I'll use is being agile, right? Like, you need to have an agenda. You need to know what it is that you're going to be talking about. But the reality is, this isn't about you. The client doesn't care what you want to accomplish in this meeting. They want to feel like, what was it you said? Like that you're addressing their concerns, their needs, that they can sleep at night. Like, what are their stresses?
Yes.
That's the key thing. And until you get there and start asking them questions, you don't actually have any idea what their stresses are. You might think because they're a 40-year-old couple with 2 kids and a mortgage, and you might know, I've seen thousands of people just like you. I know you need this, and I approximately know how much coverage you need. But they don't know that yet. You need to give them an opportunity to walk through it. But before you do, I think you need to earn the right. Ask them, what are their concerns? What are their stresses? What are their objections, right?
Absolutely. In that recording, you'll see that the focal point to all of it, it starts out obviously by we talk about, tell them how you get paid and how this relationship will work. But then you're pre-handling objections, and you're always closing. ABC, always be closing. And that is, everything you do should lead or attempt to lead to an affirmation. Mm-hmm. It's about having an affirmation. And then ask them, it's the telltale question to F&As. Tell me the 2 or 3 things that keep you awake at night, that cause you stress or occupy your mind when you're trying to sleep, as it pertains to financial plan, your financial future. And I think if you ask that question just that way,
Mhm.
then allow them to talk. They will open up. And to your point, you have to listen to what they're telling you, and they will tell you what they're willing to buy or what
Yeah,
concerns them or what's the problem or what they'll tell you everything.
they will
And
if you give them a chance. Yeah.
yeah, and if it's just again asking them the follow-up why, what about that makes that true, just
Mhm.
the why, and get them to open up, then you will have so much information beyond just the data that
Yes.
and you'll if you access the link and listen to that webinar, you'll see then that the way you close the sale in the very next appointment is not just bringing an illustration that's 100 pages and think you have to explain it. It really is simply feeding them back what they just told you in a different viewpoint, but giving them back their own words as to
Yes.
why you're recommending what you're recommending.
Which is why
And
it
that,
was so important at the beginning to ask them those 2 or 3 things that are bothering them so that
yes,
when you're talking about the solution, you can reference back. Remember you said this was a concern, this was an issue?
precisely.
This is how that's our solution and our solution, not my
Yes,
solution as the
yes,
salesperson. Our solution to that problem that you're having is this.
correct. No, spot on. That's exactly it. And so that recording on the F&A process is exactly what you and I have been talking about today. Obviously, we go into a little more depth than we
Yeah.
are today, but that's the mission. That's the road it takes you down.
And, it reminds me of something, and something that I talk to agents about as often as I can is to understand that your goal is to make this experience between you and the client not seem like a salesperson client experience. Like you want to make it a father to father, a husband to husband, a parent to parent, conversation. We are two human beings connecting here. I have one goal, one purpose, and that is to help you solve a problem, eliminate stress, achieve your goals, whatever it is. We're going to identify what that is today. And yes, I'm not a charity. I get paid to do this. This is my occupation.
Yes,
But that's how I get paid, is to provide you value. And you will not buy from me. You will not join my team, and you will not introduce me to people that you care about if I don't do a darn good job at it, right?
correct. It's building that trust and getting them to talk and open up to their, what's deep in their heart. That's the way you get there.
And
Absolutely.
it reminds me of a quote. I took a sales training program many years ago, and a quote that has resonated with me ever since then is, if I'm asking the same questions as my competitors, I'm not differentiating myself.
Correct.
So this is why I think it's so important to be prepared. How are you going to differentiate yourself? What are the questions you're going to ask? How are you going to stand out amongst the many other advisors or agents or salespeople that this individual has seen before you?
And I think that statement right there lends to the whole experience, not just of Experior and you as an individual advisor, but why you have a relationship as a company with Quantum and
Mm,
why Quantum's relationship with Annexus. Every carrier, no matter what the product is, if we're talking annuities, if we're talking life insurance, it really doesn't matter. We all have essentially the same products, essentially. So what differentiates when you take an illustration or proposal from one company from your competitor that brings the same company's illustration to the table? They're the same illustration.
yeah.
What different and so now you're left quote unquote selling you as a professional. And I very often joke with advisors that if I'm that other advisor, if Al Suckerman is that other advisor, and you're competing against me, who's going to win?
Hmm.
I assure you it won't be you.
Yeah.
I will win. And because I understand the value proposition, I understand how to place it, I understand. So what Experior has done for the advisors and what Quantum is doing is they're bringing actually a different design, a
Yeah.
different company, a different mindset, which is a Nexus that everybody else doesn't get. that
Yes.
you have that limited distribution. And that's what makes that magic, is that you're not putting on the table the same thing everybody else is. How
Mhm.
many other entities have given you a tutorial on the F&A process, on some of the other things that we do? Those are unique. It's really about making you a better advisor so that you can make your clients better financially in the future. You work client facing. We do the same thing for you as an advisor in trying to make you a better advisor. And that's the magic of this whole thing.
Absolutely. And Al, that's a great segue into the value proposition that is offered by Quantum and Annexus. So I'm sharing your screen here for you so that you can kind of walk us through, some of what you've been able to put together for us and the value proposition that is Annexus and our relationship with Quantum.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, Shawn. So, when we look at Experian, we've talked a lot already about these recordings that are out there. Here are the links to those recordings. I think all of you should have received it by email. As Shawn talked about, there's going to be a landing page, if it's not already up, very shortly.
Soon. Yeah.
And those will be available for you on an evergreen basis. You will be able to access these as ongoing tutorials and recordings. We will update them as updating is necessary. And these are all focused around the IUL offering and obviously the F&A process, as well as illustrations. All of that is there, and the product itself to give you that ability, and we'll make it as readily available for you as possible. We're talking really about the nationwide New Heights IUL. And that's the solution that's available through the Annexus relationship. And we ask that proverbial question, is your IUL stuck in time? And what we mean by that is it a product that is utilizing today's methodologies, today's marketplace, today's indices, today's nuances of the market? And so it really is a challenging question for you to say, are you staying on top of the industry and what's available? But understanding who Annexus is first becomes paramount. We don't have advisors like Xcelerate. We are not Quantum. We're not a wholesale organization. We are the product inventors. We design the widget. And part of our design, and this is our logo, the 3 circles, is that elite distribution. And understand, we talked about it, Shawn, just a minute ago, understanding that one of the differentiators that you as an advisor can bring to your clients and to your downlines is this idea of not everybody gets access to a Nexus product. Mm-hmm. And the reason Xcelerate has this available, whether we be on the annuity side or the life side, is because of that elite distribution. And Quantum is one of our largest partners. It's very near and dear to our hearts. They happen to be located here in the same city that Annexus is located. And we spend a lot of time and effort with Quantum. And so they have the ability to bring you every advantage that Annexus brings to the table. And we do all of that development through strategic partnerships. Mm-hmm. That being all of the other professionals, whether it's economists, carriers, index builders, the New York Stock Exchange, all of those entities are part of what makes us who we are. We know that we have a lot of intellectual capital here at Annexus, but one of the things our research and our patents and all of that has brought to the table is we don't have every answer for every question. Nobody does. We're pretty humble in terms of recognizing there are other people that know things. But what we do know is we know where to go get it. And so we just hire those entities. We sign contracts with those entities to provide us that research. And that's a differentiator when you package this whole thing together. So again, that product is the nationwide New Heights IUL. This is truly an accumulation and income focused product. And it's really, the purpose is to have flexibility to meet the client's needs at every stage of life. I talk about in that F&A video, when you listen to it and utilize it, you'll hear, I talk about the idea that in my 36 years, I've never had a client that did everything I asked them to do in the original plan. I mean, life happens.
Yep.
They have roofs to repair, children cost them money, healthcare doesn't go the way you think they will, you lose jobs, you need to buy a new air conditioner, or in Canada, you need to buy a new heater. And I say that tongue in cheek. I'm a Minnesota boy through and through, born and raised. I know winter. I know winter. And I've told the story to Shawn and many others that I learned how to bet on the horses in Winnipeg at Assiniboia Downs. I get it, but the truth is, things happen, and the first thing that it seems a client does is they don't pay their life insurance premium. They skip a premium, and so the question becomes then, well, what happens to the policy? Is the policy flexible enough to accommodate that? Can you make up for it? Will it not lapse? All of those types of questions, and that was the impetus in the design of the product. So really, 3 topics. If you get nothing else out of today, 3 reasons why this product becomes pretty viable for you. First and foremost, our research has taught us that it isn't the rates of return of the index that make the difference. It really is the expense structure. And death benefit equals expense. So the lower you can keep the expenses, the higher the cash contribution, the more accumulation, therefore the more income that you'll be able to generate. And this is a supplemental income style product. So low cost expenses. And to do that and to know what those are, you have to utilize the annual cost summary report. That's another webinar or tutorial on those recordings. You'll want to view it to see how to present in a more efficient and a succinct kind of way. Secondly, is that the proprietary indexes. Our products were built for the proprietary indexes. And in the Annexus world, one of the differentiators in our product is always uncapped, contractually guaranteed to have no caps. And in our base structures, no spreads, no asset charges, no strategy fees. So you have very low fee structure and always uncapped, with participation rates as high as 370%. That's unheard of in the industry. And then the last thing that we talk about is those strong contractual guarantees. You can have all those other 2 things, but if you leave room for the carrier to make major adjustments in the structure of the contract, then you have less probability and sustainability into the future. And so with having 100% contractual minimum guarantees, the inherent structure of the contract retains more of its form than any other products in the entire industry. So it really is those 3 things. We refer to that as the trifecta. It is those 3 trifecta that makes for a product that actually achieves the results as opposed to just illustrates the results. Let me talk to you a little bit about competitive analysis. I want to get into, just briefly, not in detail, competitive analysis and where we stack up in the industry and why you need to take a look at this. We talk a lot about low cost design. And when you look at the other products in the industry, many of whom you all work with on a day in, day out basis, you see the parameter that we did this off of: a 45-year-old paying for 20 years, taking distributions. And the fact of the matter is, look at the difference in total expenses over that 20-year mark. Anywhere from 10 to 100+% difference, but average 30 to 50% across the board. And it's those expenses that make a difference in the innate structure of the contracts. And so when you're assessing, the only way to assess these is from that annual cost summary. You're going to want to get familiar with that. And any product that won't allow you access to that, makes it difficult for you to get that, or simply just won't provide it, you've got to question why. And typically the reason why is they know that their structure is so large that if you really saw what that was, you'd never sell it. And they're in the business to sell. They want premium. Every carrier does. So we think that that is a telltale sign. And if it's not expenses, then you run into the topic of current participation rates versus guaranteed participation rates. And we know that there is a huge disconnect in those. And when you look at the nationwide product that we bring to the table for you, of course, you know that our par rates go up to 370 at its peak, but the contractual guaranteed minimums, look at some of the differences in those contractual guarantees. If everybody's indexes earn the same amount on Wall Street, but one gives you 50% par, the other gives you 100% par, aren't you twice as likely to achieve the return? And that's the story there. It's not that any of these products are bad. And many advisors say to me, but I don't use those allocations that you're referencing. I understand that. Today, you don't use them. But what happens 10 years down the road when you're going to help that client reallocate because there's a difference in the market? What options do they have? Remember, we talked about this product being flexible, being able to accommodate life the way life happens. But if they don't have any good options, they're kind of left out in the cold. That's where this becomes the real story. So it's retaining that flexibility factor. Guarantees matter. You all can feel free to grab this QR code. This is also one of those pieces, the style of the types of pieces that we have on My Annexus. All of you should have access to the My Annexus site through Quantum. That's the repository that for your Illustrator, for e-apps, for all the marketing materials, index materials, and sales concepts. This just happens to be one of those pieces. But My Annexus is going to be the place, and there you see the screenshot for everything. I think most of you should have access. If you do not, then make sure that you contact Colton at Quantum. Colton at Quantum. He's the one that can get you access, or your upline could also potentially get you access. But ask the question, because this is where you're going to want to go to gain access to everything. This is kind of your, if you will, Bible to all things Annexus. And that would be true not only for IUL, but for your annuities also. The annuities will all be there as well. So you'll have access to everything on the My Annexus site. It's worth noting, and I'll wrap up for you, that every piece of marketing material that we have was created at Annexus. We do not use any carrier-built material because we know that our story has to be told a particular way to create that competitive advantage that you all have as a result of this partnership. And it's truly, truly a partnership. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't talk to somebody at Experior, whether it's Shawn or Darren or Frank or Jamie or Mauro. Every day I talk to somebody. It really is a partnership. And we know that our story should be told a particular way because it's that different. And these pieces were built to tell the story. So that really is the essence of what we're doing and why we think this is an important thing for all of you to be a part of and be trained on and understand. So that's my 2 cents, Shawn.
Al, you're bang on. This has been one of the most incredible partnerships that Experior has had on both sides of the border. And it's a tribute to the mutual commitment to each other. We both appreciate that we're going to succeed together. And the fact that we have access to Annexus, which is only offered through 9 partners in the United States, something like that?
24.
Oh, is it 24? Okay, so still,
yeah.
That's a pretty small number considering how many there are out there in the United States. So we're very honored to be partnering with you.
When you look at, I'm sure you're familiar with LIMRA, the LIMRA organization, professional organization in the US. LIMRA, based on their statistics, 97% of the industry does not have access to an Annexus product or use it week in, week out. So your Experior, because of your affiliation to Quantum, is amongst the 3%ers. That's incredible. Incredible thing.
That is incredible. And for everybody's benefit, the links and contact information that Al was referencing, whether it was Colton or the other links, will all be available in the XCast podcast section of the business development area in the back office, or you can look under provider contacts. We'll give you any number of ways to make sure that you can connect with Quantum and Annexus. Now, just to start wrapping up, I mentioned it earlier, the key thing for you in the fact-finding process, that initial engagement with your client, is to be interested, not to be interesting. This isn't show and tell. This isn't all about you. It's all about them, right?
Yes.
So that is really, I think, what I want to convey to our agents, that there is an art and a science to the fact-finding process. And if all you're doing is selling a product without knowing the person, without taking the time to really understand what their needs are, then it's just a transaction. And that experience is not going to be memorable for that individual. You are not going to have them looking forward to that next meeting with you. You're not going to have them looking forward and excited about potentially joining your organization, your agency, and becoming a part of your team. And you're certainly not going to get introductions to the people that they care about. So what can you do? What I want you to think about is, what can you do to create a more engaging experience with the clients? Asking great questions, taking the time to listen to them, addressing all of their objections in advance. And Al, I mean, the insight you provided today is great. Is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, let me just wrap up with it. Can we go back to the camera and take off the PowerPoint here real quick? I want to show one resource that we developed that's available to all of you. We've had it at the Texas Takeover.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have it at Chicago. We'll have them in Toronto. Hopefully all of you can see. This is a pocket resource guide. We call it a swatch book, but it lists every single product that you have, whether it be annuities or life insurance. And it's for you to have with you in your briefcase at your appointments, that when you come across a particular marketplace, whether they want accumulation or they want income or they want guarantees or they want IUL, we've labeled each product for that marketplace that it's specialized in. It has all of the contact information on the inside cover to Colton, to me. We give you all that information. You will be able to get these for your entire team. We have plenty of them, but these are logoed for Experior. These are designed specifically for Experior and are available to you. So make sure that you grab them in Chicago in 2 weeks, in Toronto in June. We'll get you all of these. And I just want to throw out, if I could throw out one challenge to the entire team, and that is between now and convention. I know that every one of you are doing business. Give me an opportunity and submit one application. There would be nothing more that I would like than to be able to take the podium in Toronto and be able to report to Jamie, you had 100% participation for at least one application from every licensed advisor. Give me that chance to earn your business. And I think together we'll all make a good income. We'll do right by our clients and we'll provide a tremendous experience. Thank you again, Shawn, for the opportunity.
Well said. And thank you so much, Alan. You've heard the challenge, everybody. Give Alan an opportunity to earn your business and get to the convention. If you haven't already got your tickets, check out the back office, click on the link and get those tickets soon. The prices are going up and we'd love to see you there. Al, thank you again for your support and for your time.
Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Take care. Thanks for watching Xcelerate. I have another great video right here, so check it out. And remember, Experior Financial Group is about real people, real ownership, and real change. Let us help you accelerate your growth.